My never I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there. I see them yopo.
Coming.
I'm usually surprised by the ignorance that attends to some of the discussions on the conflict in Palestine. I'm so struck by the level of ignorance because the literature is available. The literature is available in the Holy Bible that all of us were forced to study, we were whipped to study and so on. It's available in the history books, it's available in law and so on. So ignorance is inexcusable when it comes to discussing the apartheid genocidal regime and its actions against the Palestinian people. Look, I hear people say that, look, Hamas went and attacked Israel and Israel is only responding and so on. Absolute rubbish. The bombs are dropping on the West Bank. Is Hamas in the West Bank? Women and children are dying in Ramallah. Is Ramallah is Hamas in Ramallah? So that is simply untenable. It's an untenable position. I'm sure that all of you here have seen the video of the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, who was handed over a report of human rights abuses against the Palestinian people. Right in the podium, he tore it up and told the UN to go to hell. Will Ghana be allowed to do that? Which country in the world will be allowed to do that? This level of impunity is completely outrageous. Now, we need to go back to history. The Balfour Declaration, which is responsible for the present carnage and so on, the Balfour Declaration. The British were the colonial administrators of Palestine. After World War II, the British began finding out what they can do to appease their own conscience and the conscience of the Europeans who harassed, molested, and committed genocide against the Jews, you understand? So the British were looking for options to give land to the Zionist movement to establish the state of Israel. Two countries were considered. Uganda today and Israel. So all this nonsense about promised land and so on, how did Uganda become promised land? Uganda was considered as land to be given to the Zionists to establish their state. Now just imagine that Uganda was finally decided upon. What will be happening to us as Africans? Let us think. And I hear people talk about, oh, Hamas started it. How could Hamas started it? When this conflict has a history of 75 years and more. What happened is less than 3 weeks old. It cannot be the genesis of the conflict. I'm sure you are aware of the day of Nakba, where actually Israeli terrorists raided Palestinians' homes, drove them out, killed as many as they could, and so on. And that has been declared as the day of Nakba, you understand? So please, let us not mess up. Israel is an apartheid state. Israel is an occupying force. And there's no way anybody can equate an occupying force with the victims of occupation. There's no symmetry in that. No symmetry in that at all. I mean, 2 weeks ago, in the morning, I was listening to Sana's program, Radio Gold. I mean, incredible. A Ghanaian that I respect, who is my friend and so on, was sitting on the radio, repeating the claim that one Israeli life is the equivalent of 200 Palestinian lives. Wow. Unbelievable. And then sometimes we are told about religious division and so on. Palestine has more Christians than Israel. And in fact, the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims live in harmony in Palestine. Israel is on record to be repressing Christians, to be repressing all those who do not accept the philosophy of Zionism, not Judaism, philosophy of Zionism. Now, if you take Judaism as a religious philosophy, Judaism completely rejects Christianity. In fact, Judaism claims that Christianity is idol worship. It does not believe in the Trinity. It does not accept that Jesus is even a prophet. It describes Jesus as an imposter. Basic things. Basic things. What on earth can justify a situation in which this small land of Gaza is attacked by 110 F-16 fighters in one day? 110 American-made F-16 fighters attacked Gaza in one day. What can justify that? Nothing on earth can justify that. The Israeli claim that Hamas is using human beings as human shields and so on. I mean, it defies logic. Now, if Hamas is using civilians as human shield, it means that wherever there are civilians, Hamas is behind them. Of the 8,000 civilians who were killed, or who are still being killed in Gaza, how many Hamas people have been killed? So where were the Hamas people who were using them as human shield? Because if you are using something as a shield, you are behind it. It simply doesn't make any sense at all. You understand? When people talk about apartheid in Israel, I don't think that we examine it carefully. In Israel today, there are streets that Palestinians are not allowed to use. If you're a Palestinian, there are some streets that you can't use. Those streets are preserved only for Israeli citizens. Tell me that this is not discrimination. Tell me that this is not discrimination. For 16 years, 16 raw years, 2.4 million people have been put in an open yard prison, the worst concentration camp that the world has seen since Hitler. 16 years continuous. They are not allowed to build an airport. They are not allowed to build an army. They are not allowed to receive weapon supplies and so on. And we want to support this. Now, if what Hamas did is terrorism, what Israel has been doing is what? What Israel has been doing, what is it? If what Hamas has been doing is terrorism, what Israel has been doing is what? And listen, it took no less a person than the Secretary General of the United Nations to make an open declaration before the world that the Hamas attack did not occur in a vacuum. That's loaded. Now, yesterday something significant happened in the UN. Do you realize that the Western countries are now divided? Yeah. They are divided in the middle. They can no longer support the nonsense that the United States of America is imposing on the world. So even among the Western countries, now there's division. This morning as I was coming, I was listening to the mayor of London. He has broken from the Labour Party completely. He has seen the nonsense that the Labour leadership is spreading about Palestine. When this struggle started, Jeremy Corbyn was trying to be in the middle because of the accusations that he's anti-Semitic and so on. 3 days ago, Jeremy Corbyn came back to his old stand that there can be no justification for the atrocities which are being committed in Gaza. In any case, those who are sitting here celebrating and thinking that Israel will walk over Gaza, they are daydreaming. I've been following very closely the so-called ground assault. The Israeli army has been beaten in 2 places. They've had to retreat since last night. Think that Hamas is lying there sleeping. They've been beaten. They've had to retreat. You understand? Why do you think that Israel has taken out all access to social media and so on in Gaza? Because they know they are going to commit atrocities, and they don't want those atrocities to be seen by the world. Now, listen very carefully to the anti-Palestinian propaganda that is going around. Listen very carefully. Compare it to the anti-African, anti-ANC, anti-Mandela campaign that was waged in those years. Even when Mandela had become president, he was still classified by the West as a terrorist. So do we care who they call a terrorist? We know their record. Why? Samora Machel, an African hero, was classified as a terrorist. Amilcar Cabral, and so on. So clear. It's very clear. And I stand firmly with the Palestinian people. But I'm so sad that age and lack of training makes it impossible for me to physically participate in this struggle. If I were younger, if I had the relevant training, I'll be on the battlefield. Look, when Hitler started, this is how world leaders behaved. And this thing ballooned into a Second World War. Look at the consequences. Look at the consequences. Which country in the world will be allowed to do what Israel is doing? Look at how they killed Gaddafi. How many people did Gaddafi's security forces kill before they went there and killed Gaddafi? Compare Gaddafi's regime to the Israeli regime. Who deserves the treatment which was meted out to Gaddafi? And these Western countries have the nerve to talk about terrorism and so on. My brother, Patrice Lumumba, the democratically elected president of the Congo, was overthrown in a joint collaboration of Western intelligence agencies. They did not just overthrow him. They executed him by firing squad. It didn't end there. They dissolved his body in acid. And they removed his front teeth as souvenir. It's only last year that they returned his front teeth to his people. These people have the nerves to be calling somebody terrorist? To be calling an organization terrorist? Anyway, look, if we want to discuss this in detail, we won't end today. Let me end by saying, one, that Jesus Christ was a Palestinian. Jesus Christ was born at a spot which today sits the Church of Nativity. It is in Palestinian land. So all those people, Christians who say they are going to Israel for pilgrimage and so on, they don't know that they go to Palestine for pilgrimage. The Church of Nativity is in Palestine. The Israeli apartheid occupationist force, its discrimination, its aggression and so on, is not just against Muslims. Christians are crying in Palestine because they are victims of those things. Now, Senna, I've been traveling a bit. And everywhere I go, I get embarrassed by the question, what is Ghana going to do about this situation? First of all, I know that my government is lost in the wilderness. I mean, our president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in the face of this aggression and impunity, actually makes a statement that Ghana is firmly standing with Israel and Ukraine. Who told him that he's speaking for me? He's not speaking for me at all. And I get embarrassed by questions which are posed by well-meaning people all over the world. Fortunately for us, progressive forces in Ghana have decided that come next Thursday, they are going to organize a massive solidarity demonstration, a massive demonstration in solidarity with the people of Palestine. I understand that the police has already been informed and preparations are underway for the mother of all demonstrations in Accra. And I will take part in that demonstration. Thursday. That demonstration is going to start at Obra Sport at 9 a.m. It will go all the way up to Farisco Junction, turn towards the Trade Union Congress and National Theatre, and finally end up at Hearts Park. I will be there. I will take part in that demonstration to show my outrage against racist abuse and the aggression, the senseless aggression of Israel against the people of Palestine. I will take part. And I will urge all men and women, peace-loving men and women in Ghana, to take part in that massive demonstration against the Zionist, colonialist, apartheid occupation of Palestine.
Welcome back, by the way. Let me just read two updates, very important. This is Hani Mahmoud in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza, Al Jazeera correspondent, completely disconnected from the outside world. Palestinians in Gaza are still living the horror of last night. The Israeli army carried out massive airstrikes. Beit Lahia, Beit Hanun, and Zaytun were all targeted. Medical and civil defense personnel said they could not make it to the targeted areas because of the lack of communication. The entire communication system of Gaza Strip has been destroyed, allowing only speculation currently about the sheer amount of damage that has been caused by the bombardment of the northern part of the Strip and Gaza City. The other one is from the UN, and it says, weeks before Hamas carried out its October 7 surprise offensive in southern Israel, and Israel launched a major military operation in Gaza, Navi Pillay, who chairs the United Nations Commission of Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory and Israel, released a report. And there's a quote from the report which says, quote, the Commission finds the increasingly militarized law enforcement operations of Israel and repeated attacks by Israel on Gaza are aimed at maintaining its unlawful 56-year occupation, end quote. That is from the United Nations. We share with you videos from our time spent in the North Tong constituency, and then we'll come back and discuss the issue of the flats.
This will never stop if we don't take a decision to allow the people of Palestine to govern themselves and stop this business of occupation. If not, trust me, we will call for peace. We will sit by the table. There will be some sort of peace, only to prepare and hate Israel again, or Israel will hate the people in the Gaza Strip again. They are being monitored 24 hours. For me, I believe that looking at and reading updates on this, I believe the only thing is Israel wants to show that yes, although we have failed in our security to have actually detected this, our failure, we must turn it into something else and make everybody know that even if we fail, you have no right to attack us. Yes, they have the right to attack. Let us not play the ostrich. Because if my mother, innocent mother, should be killed by a bomb from the Israelis, what do you think I would do? Let's all ask ourselves, what would you do? When your 6 months baby, you carry emotionless body of a 6 months baby going to bury, what do you think will happen to such a person? Or what do you think that person will do in the future? And therefore, let us not assume that the people in Palestine are so wicked. No, they are not. They've been made bitter over the years. And that is what we need to heal as a world if we want a lasting peace.
And thank you, Nee. And this is one of the updates. This is from the World Food Program. And they say Gaza is at a tipping point. Cindy McCain has added her voice to those warning that the situation in Gaza had reached a tipping point. And she says, quote, the silence is deafening. Humanity must prevail. Honorable Soa.
Thank you so much, Senna, for having me. And thank you, co-panelists. A very good morning to your listeners, and then listeners in Kwando constituency who were also severely affected by the spillage. Some of our island communities have been totally submerged, totally submerged. You can't even find the roof of any building. So once again, thank you for having me here. On the issue of the conflict, I may probably be your only dissenting voice. Let me say, I wasn't in support of what the Hamas did to Israel, going into the, what's it called, the music festival and just killing people like that. It wasn't right. And this Israeli-Palestinian conflict goes deeper than most of us know on the surface. I had the privilege of being in Israel one day, and there was a small argument between me and then another MP from another country on this conflict. I mean, we were taking positions like, maybe I'm a Muslim, maybe I'm a Christian, I support this, I'm against this. And to our surprise, in the evening, a bus came from Palestine with women. They had come to the Haifa Center for training. So we were confused. What's happening? The way we hear about the conflict from outside is like these people are loggerheads. But here, a bus of women came from Palestine to be trained in Israel. And I was wondering, what is it? Speaking to them, it was like, this conflict is all about politics. The politicians are using the conflict for their own interests. But as people, we are one. I mean, that statement really confused some of us, because this was the first time we're hearing that these people were really like brothers, and it was the politicians making it, how do I say it, look like it's a very severe conflict. Because even if you listen to the president of Palestine, Hamas doesn't speak for them. So you go and create something, and then they are the, excuse me, at the receiving end. I think this thing has to stop both sides. Not only, beg your pardon, not only calling on Israel to stop. I think Hamas also has a part to play, and they must also be cautioned in the same way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dedi kama mamena PENDREAM TV ase. Na so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Ah, nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.